take a second, and I'll tell you. It should come back online.
Okay.
Alright, and now it'll take a second, and I'll tell you. It should come back online.
I can hear you now. So.
Alright, and now it'll take a second, and I'll tell you. It should come back online.
I can hear you now. So.
Alright, and now it'll take a second, and I'll tell you. It should come back online.
I can hear you now. So.
Alright, and now it'll take a second, and I'll tell you. It should come back online.
I can hear you now. So.
Alright, and now it'll take a second, and I'll tell you. It should come back online.
I can hear you now. So.
Alright, and now it'll take a second, and I'll tell you. It should come back online.
I can hear you now. So.
It'll take a second, and I'll tell you. It should come back online.
I can hear you now. So. What do I need to do? How bad? What do I need to do? How bad? What do I need to do? How bad? What do I need to do?
What is that? Why can't? Isn't that a microphone?
Maybe. Okay, wait. I can hear it now.
You can hear me?
We're good. We got it.
All right.
It's good. It's good. It's working. Yeah, I gotta hang up really quickly or we're gonna use it.
You can hear me? All right. So Isaac's saying y'all can hear me. That only took 30 minutes. I don't remember it being that hard last year, so I apologize. But yes, Isaac, I will give you a gold snar for your IT help on this. So I hope everyone's having a good night. I'm now having a better night because this is working. The best way this worked last year is I would look at your live stream on the chat, and if you had specific questions, I would be more than happy to help you. Let me go ahead and give you kind of a rundown of what you can expect tomorrow. The first part of the test is going to be 10 statements, and you're going to have to decide between the Missouri Compromise, the Compromise of 1850, and the Kansas-Nebraska Act, which statement it describes. So if you had a statement that said the result of this compromise was Maine was admitted as, as a free state, then what would be your answer? And this is where you can type it into the chat right there to let me know that you can hear me and that you understand what's going on. There we go. Okay, so Jay gets the first point there. Okay, and if you don't want to answer anything like that, that's fine. But this is just kind of be a way to do it. So the first part of the test is going to be, like identification, which statement best describes the Compromise of 1850, Missouri Compromise, and Kansas-Nebraska Act. So Lily, what I'm planning to do with your notes is give you a 5-minute period during the test to use your notes. I'm not going to give you that 5-minute period before, or like as soon as I give you the test. I'm going to let you guys take the test, and then maybe 20-30 minutes into the test, or maybe longer than that, so you can work through the test, give you about a 5-minute period to use your notes, so you can go back kind of, there's some things that you're blanking on, or maybe kind of get you prepared for the essay questions that you're going to see. All right. So yes, you will be able to use your notes. I will only let people use notes that's handwritten. Most of y'all did the handwritten notes starting in class, so that should work. I will try to do my due diligence in making sure there's nothing, like there's no cheating, obviously. But I'll probably walk through and check all of your notes, just kind of scan them before we start the test. Yes. It's fair game. If you bring, I told you could use anything that you want. All right. To me, and this is where some people might disagree with me. If you're writing all this down in your handwriting, then you're proving to me that you're studying. So anything that you take from this broadcast or anything like that, you can use Ariana. All right, so do any of you guys have any specific questions for me? Something you want me to explain a little bit more? First part of the test, like I said, the identification part, I think I've added 5 true-false questions. 25 total questions, Isaac. 10 matching, or 10 of the identification, 5 true-false, 5 short answer. How many are we up to? And then the rest are multiple choice. And then the major part of the test is I've got I've got 6 essay questions to choose from. You'll choose 3. Um, so there'll be 6 questions. You choose 3, and then you'll write essays on those. Is there any other questions that you may have? All right, Callie. So the last thing I meant to do before I left practice today was run back up to my room and get the test so I would have it for this broadcast, and I didn't do that. All right. So from what I can remember, I think it's in your best interest to know this story of John Brown and um, the events he obviously participated in Harper's Ferry, why he participated in Harper's Ferry, um, how the North and South maybe reacted to John Brown's events at Harper Ferry. Um, One of the essay questions may be, I'm saying maybe like it's on there. All right. Um, uh, Deals with Uncle Tom's Cabin. I apologize that I didn't spend a lot more time in class talking about Uncle Tom's Cabin, but I feel like it's the way the essay question is set up. If you just spend a little bit of time studying that, um, why Stowe, like her motivations for the book, how she used certain characters in the book to prove that obviously the idea that the sin of slavery was, could just consume a man. Um, how she used Simon Legree, how he, the whole idea of him being a Northerner and then being, kind of brought down to the South and being changed into a different person. Um, there's some connections. I think it's important to understand the connections too with Uncle Tom and him being a Christ-like figure. I think if you can tie in the ideas from the Great Awakening, or at least identify the Great Awakening, the Second Great Awakening, as to um, why Stowe might have written this book, or that being a motivation of the book, from an old idea of God being, I'm going to strike you down, and a destroyer versus a loving Christ. I think that would be a good start. I I struggle with the to be able to tell you guys how long the essays will be. That's something you're going to have to get out of your mind right now, because IB is not going to be worried about how long your essays are. They're gonna want to see that you're able to, you know continue the narrative, that you're able to analyze this information or discuss this information um, in a way that proves that you understand it. I know that doesn't make sense because I'm sitting here reading a question as I'm trying to explain, but um, some people can write an essay in 3 paragraphs and nail it, and some people can write 3 pages and not even be anywhere close to the answer. Um, for the sake of my sanity, I hope that you're spot on, and I don't have to read, a bunch of verbal or written diarrhea. All right, but um, I think the questions are clearly stated out that you should be able to follow along with the narrative. I would know the story behind Dred Scott, who he was, what caused him to appeal a court case that made it all the way to the Supreme Court. Why the country was so quick to, uh, or why certain people in the South were begging for the Supreme Court to hear the decision. Um, how the Supreme Court decided, and why it's considered to be one of the worst decisions that the Supreme Court has ever made. All right, I'm going to scroll back up in my chat right here to see if I missed any questions while I was blabbing. Okay. Eileen, I'm assuming that other people have answered your question about the wigs. Um, I don't have a specific question on the test on who the wigs are. However, there is a question regarding the thanks, Remy, regarding the Kansas-Nebraska Act and how the Republican Party would have been birthed out of Northern Whigs and maybe Northern Democrats that were more on line with uh, the true abolitionist platform, okay, of completely eliminating slavery from it. All right. Nobody's typing any questions right here, so I'm awkwardly staring at my phone and staring at you guys. So why do we need to know the difference between the Hamilton and Jefferson? Okay. Um, what was Ariana's question? On the study guide, it mentioned specific stories from the North. So where are those exactly? Help me out, Ariana, because I can't. I mean, specific stories from the North. I don't have the study guide in front of me right now. I do think there is an essay question regarding the Fugitive Slave Act. And if you were to go into your Battle Cry of Freedom book, in the first part of chapter 3, there would be some specific stories that talked about um, escaped slaves leaving the South and a couple of individuals that became waiters or got jobs in the North, and then they were asked to be brought back down to the South, and how communities and abolitionists came together to maybe protect them or try to get them out. Um, yeah, the Shadrach story is a good one. Um, all those stories can be found in, like I said, the first part of chapter 3. And it's not something that you have to sit there and you have to read and know word for word. But anybody that's going to be reading an essay in overseas or anything that you put down in IB, the more names that you have and the more examples that you have to kind of prove your point is going to bode well for you. Who is MIB? Because these are good stories, or these are the examples that are coming out of the book. Who's this SpongeBob character thing? I don't know who you are. Identify yourself now. Guys, I started to buy my guns from a T-Rex. He's a small arms dealer. right, y'all are killing it. All right, I mean all these stories are. Uh, it is funny, Ariana. All right, questions. Yeah, you can use the map. Yeah, I don't. I know for a fact that I haven't put any specific like. I don't think the map would help you answer a specific question. However, I do think it may be able to. All right, Isaac. If your notes are electronic, I'm, yes, Isaac. Let's talk tomorrow. All right. Do we need to know about the elections and everyone dealing with it? Who is Kill R100? Are you talking about the presidential elections? I'm assuming, Ariana. Hello, Kyle. No, Ariana, I think it would help if you knew the timeline of, or like if you knew uh, the presidents. I mean, obviously, if you're talking about the Mexican American War and you're beginning to talk about uh, the United States expanding there, you would talk about Polk and things like that. Um, hey Kyle, ask Luke if he got his study guide from me today because I told him 3 times that I was going to get that study guide for him and I didn't do it all 3 times. Okay, Ariana, I think it's vital that you know who Roger Taney is. Okay, that's going to be your Supreme Court, your Chief Justice, that's going to be um, that's going to lead the charge here. Excuse me, you might want to research a little bit about him to kind of get some ideas of where he's from and kind of his background of he would why it would benefit the South that he was the Supreme Court justice, that he was the Chief Justice, um, aiding in that decision. Look at look at the know old white man being the Supreme Court, being the Supreme Court justices at a time like this. I mean, it was set up to obviously give a. I mean, it's inevitable the answer that's going to happen. I've never done this much research on it, but I would be willing to bet I'm going to do it right now. While let's see, Dred Scott decision. Supreme. So the Dred Scott decision was a 7-2 decision. So there was 2 dissenting opinions. I'm going to go to the most trusted website here for history information, and that's Wikipedia. Okay, hold on. Little fun fact here, a Associate Justice on the Dred Scott decision, John McClain. Okay. McClain was born in New Jersey. James M. Wayne from Georgia. John Catron. Huh. This one Supreme Court justice's mother has the last name Houck, H-O-U-C-K. Seems like he's from, let's see, family. Oh, this guy served in the war under Andrew Jackson. He's a Tennessee guy. So there you go. So there's two from the South. I know this has got to be just y'all making fun of me and calling me a nerd. Here's one from Virginia. Peter Daniels from Virginia. Samuel Nelson. This guy's from the Vermont. Looks like a lot of these guys had ties, obviously, with Jackson. You got to think too. A lot of these guys, even though they might not be from the South and have interest in slaves, they may look at it as an economic, decision. All right. I know I probably just wasted a lot of y'all's time there, which was pointless, but you can go and do your own research there with that. All right. Hold on, I got to catch up with all these questions here. Okay. A lot of you questions, or a lot of y'all are asking Roger Taney. I think most of y'all are able to answer that, or at least answering it in the excuse me, in the chat. The Hamiltonian Jeffersonian ideals, don't worry about it. I think a lot of that, if you can understand that Jefferson was agrarian, was based, like his ideas for the country and the United States was based on agriculture, and Hamilton's ideas was more based on industry, then it ultimately leads to understanding why the sectionalism and the tension between the North and the South was inevitable. If you wanted to, I take that back, Jay. There is an essay question on there that if you used some of the information that you pulled from Hamiltonian and Jeffersonian ideals, it would add depth to your essay. It would benefit you. But remember, you have the choice of choosing your essays. All right. Yes, Kyle, and that's a good point too. I mean, Kyle, that might actually be the best point to make, and what ultimately led to the Civil War is Jefferson wanting states to be more in charge, where Hamilton wanted a strong federal government. Well, there's a lot of things that happened after Dred Scott, Ariana. The Civil War would be something that may or may not be important after the Dred Scott decision. A young man by the name of Abraham Lincoln was elected for president after Dred Scott. I'll stop being a jerk. For the test, no, because Scott was. Well, yeah. Ariana, Harper's Ferry would be after Dred Scott. Harper's Ferry would be 1859, and Dred Scott would be 1857. I mean, ultimately, I didn't have enough time. Like, obviously, I'm going to get to discussing the election of 1860, and technically, the election of 1860 could be argued as the biggest catalyst that led to the Civil War. But I wanted to spend more time on that than just rushing through it to put it on a test because it's actually pretty interesting to study. Who is MIB? I still don't know who that is. Yeah, I know. I mean, yes, Callie, you'll have to write three essay questions. Last year with the group that I had last year, I had the ones that knocked it out of the park. Um, would be anywhere in the neighborhood of a page to a page and a half. Um, sometimes when you get to writing these essays, okay, sometimes when you get to writing these essays, you'll get to go in and you'll realize how much you remember. You will have time, okay? Um, for the fifth period class that I have, we'll be going to the last lunch, so lunch won't interrupt you while you're taking the test. Um, remember, uh, the reason why I have to, Callie, why I have to say that you have to have the test done within the time period is because that's how they do it with the IB exam. You're going to have an hour and a half, and you're going to have to finish it. And if you don't, they're not going to give you extended time or anything like that. So, um, I feel like that the essay questions that I put on the test, if you've listened, if you've genuinely put time into paying attention and studying, I'm not trying to trick you. I'm not trying to crush your spirits. If you put the time into it, you'll be okay. There's 6 essay questions. You choose 3. No, Ariana, I'm not like as far as the war with Mexico. I think you just need to know the results of it and why that the results caused political strife, debate within our country. who, who who are you, MIB? Emily, the stories from individuals in the first part of chapter 3 that deal with the Fugitive Slave Act, I think would help you on some of the essays. Can anyone just join this like stream? All right, I'm not seeing anything else that's okay. Eileen, this is a good question, okay? Because I'll go ahead and tell you that this will probably help you in an essay part. Um, the Yes, Kyle, that is correct. The South completely associated John Brown with the North. Now there were some Northern politicians or individuals. I mean, even Lincoln said that John Brown's actions were um, that they were doomed from the start. Okay, um, there would have been situations where maybe Southern um, people might have respected the fact that he's willing to stand for a cause or anything like that, but um, the South really kind of lumped John Brown into the North, and um, just really never. I'm getting tired here. My thoughts are trailing. It just increased the sectionalism that this is the first time that we've got this major fight, this major battle, and yeah, Kyle, that's right. It goes back to the slaves uprising too. You need to go back, Eileen, too, and think about um, the slave rebellions that we talked about in class. Uh, Ariana, there's not a specific question dealing with the Transcontinental Railroad, but you would need to be able to reference the Transcontinental Railroad when you're talking about which political or which act that happened during this time. Okay. What was his name, Kyle? Yes, Jay. Stephen Douglas. Yep. I'm reading the chat. I'm starting to think that MIB needs to take over this chat, and I'll just go to bed. I'm going to briefly discuss Clay, Calhoun, and Webster. I think you need to know what happened to their. Um, this is kind of the end of Clay. Um, Calhoun and Webster. This is your obviously your three major individuals that had influence into the Compromise of 1850. If I were y'all, why was Calhoun so adamant about, like, what did he want in the Compromise of 1850? What did he feel like needed to be added to, for us, we know it prevents the inevitable, but what did he want on there that he thought would kind of appease the southern states? Bingo. All right, Fugitive Slave Act. So I think if you're able to go into detail about why that's a problem, why it's contradicting the other compromises, why um, yeah, I can't. It's difficult for me to sit here and try to talk, and then I'm reading all your answers, and you're answering the questions. I mean, great. Like this is all good information. Now hold on for a second. What are you answering, Kyle? Because I don't want you to get. If you're talking about the tariff of abominations, then you're talking about what's going on in 1828 and 1832, not the Compromise of 1850. Guys, you're ready for the test. I can't think of anything else that I can give to you um, that wouldn't have you prepared. Callie, go if you're still here. Callie asked a question about the essay questions. I said Dred Scott. I said Uncle Tom's Cabin. I said John Brown. Um, Knowing the Fugitive Slave Act, Compromise of 1850. Oh, I know what. There's one essay on there that is is going to I put it on there to give people an outlet if they felt like they had not really studied or it was kind of going to be a Hail Mary for people to maybe talk about interpreting a Lincoln quote that he actually gave prior to being elected. And if you feel like you're struggling to get the wording or get the narrative down on one of the essays and you want to interpret a kind of a quote from Lincoln, there's going to be that as well. So I'm just like y'all. When I was in classes and I had to go in with not really knowing exactly what was on the test, it caused some anxiety. But it's like I said, it's not my job to make your life miserable. It's just to make sure that you understand and know this information. So it's there. You put in the time to prepare, you'll be fine. Okay, you're going to be further along than 99% of the kids that are out there. There's not, Callie. There's not a essay question about the tariff. I'm trying to remember exactly what I put on the test. I think that it's a multiple choice and or true false question. It's one of those things that I'm looking back and kind of regretting a little bit that I spent too much time talking about that and not enough time talking about Uncle Tom's Cabin or anything like that. So that's on me, but you still need to know it, all right? Jackson and tariff is passed to protect the American industry, but what Calhoun understands and the South understands is that this tariff is not going to help the South at all. It's only going to benefit the North. The prices of goods are going to change if the United States is going to impose a tariff. Then more than likely partners that the South has, Great Britain, places that they ship their raw goods, might impose a tariff on their own, and it's just only going to cause more strife to the South. And obviously, it just didn't make economical sense to do that. I'm trying saying all that without still discussing the sin that is slavery. So. Okay. I'm going to sign off here and go watch The Office with my lovely wife. I think you all need to give Isaac Dantzler a high five or a thank you or a hug or whatever tomorrow for his willingness to talk to an individual that has no clue about this YouTube stuff. Don't be afraid to come see me in the morning. I have third period planning, so if there's any last minute anxiety attacks or anything like that, let me know. But I appreciate it, and I will talk to y'all tomorrow.